My teenage daughter said, "Dad's new girlfriend understands me. You're just bitter and jealous of their happiness." She moved in with them after our divorce. 6 months later, when the girlfriend kicked her out for being disrespectful, she learned about replacement families. My name's Mark, 42 years old, male. I don't even know how to start this without my hands shaking. Divorce was one thing. I expected anger, maybe even distance. But I never thought my own daughter would look me dead in the eye and tell me I was just bitter and jealous of her dad's new girlfriend. Her name's Emily, 15, my kid, my baby. The one I used to carry on my shoulders at the zoo, the one who made me wear a tiara at her 8th birthday because she wanted a princess dad. That same girl packed her bags and moved in with my ex-wife's replacement family because apparently they understood her better. For context, my ex, Sarah, 40, and I split 2 years ago. We'd been circling the drain for years, and I'll own my part in that. Long hours, silent dinners, the fights that always ended with slammed doors and too many unsaid words. But the divorce? That was nuclear. She started dating almost immediately. Enter Melissa, 35, her new best friend, who somehow became more than that overnight. By month 3, Melissa was practically living with Sarah. By month 6, she was bonus mom. Emily fell hard for the fantasy. Melissa had this perfect veneer, always smiling, always listening, buying her clothes Sarah never let her wear, letting her drink those ridiculous $6 coffee drinks after school. Compared to me, single dad in a modest apartment, cooking pasta and trying to hold it together, I guess I looked like the bitter one. The last fight before she left? God, I can still hear it. I told Emily I didn't like how Melissa undermined me, how she called me old-fashioned in front of my daughter when I set a rule. Emily snapped. "Dad, she actually listens to me. She understands me. You're just bitter and jealous of their happiness." Those words gutted me. It wasn't even anger. It was disappointment, like she'd seen through me and found me lacking. She packed up her room that night. Sarah texted me the next morning that, "Emily feels safer with us now. Please respect her choice." Safer. Like I'd ever laid a hand on her. Like I hadn't spent the last 15 years breaking my back to be a good dad. For 6 months, I got the scraps. Occasional texts, usually asking for money or a ride when Melissa was busy. Photos on Instagram of Emily with her new family, matching Christmas pajamas, beach trips, Melissa's parents commenting, "Our granddaughter looks so grown up." Each one felt like a knife twisting deeper. I told myself she'd come back, that teenagers lash out, that I had to play the long game. I swallowed every insult, every cold shoulder, every skipped visit. I kept her room exactly as it was, unmade bed, posters peeling on the wall, a stack of her old sketchbooks on the desk. And then last week, she showed up on my doorstep. Backpack slung over her shoulder, mascara streaked down her cheeks. No call, no warning. Just, "Dad." Melissa kicked me out. She said I was being disrespectful. I didn't know whether to hold her or scream. I let Emily inside. She smelled like someone else's perfume and stale tears. She dumped her bag in the hallway like she was still living here, like she hadn't abandoned me for half a year. I wanted to say, "You made your choice," but all I saw was my kid standing in front of me, shaking. She sat on the couch, arms crossed, trying to look defiant even as her eyes kept darting toward me. Finally, it spilled out. Melissa had laid down rules. No phones after 10, no makeup for school, clean up after yourself. Funny, those were all rules I'd had, the same ones she mocked me for when she left. But the kicker, Emily talked back, just the usual teenage stuff. "Why do I have to? You're not my real mom." That last one must have stung, because Melissa lost it. According to Emily, she went from calm to screaming in seconds. Called her ungrateful, slammed a glass on the counter so hard it shattered. Then she told Emily to get out and go back to your bitter father if you hate it here so much. So she did. Walked out into the night with just her school bag, no coat, no money. Sarah didn't stop her. Didn't call me. Nothing. My daughter had to walk 2 miles to my apartment because her replacement family decided she wasn't cute enough anymore. I should have felt triumphant. Like, "See, now you know who really loves you." But instead, I just felt hollow. I made her hot chocolate, the way I used to when she was little, and she actually cried when I set it down. Whispered, "You still make it the same." That night, she stayed in her old room. I sat in the living room staring at the door, half expecting Sarah to come pounding on it, demanding her back. Instead, around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "Emily needs to learn respect. Don't enable her. She can come home when she's ready to apologize." Apologize. To Melissa. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because something inside me was shifting. 6 months of being erased, replaced, mocked. And now, the empire Sarah built on Melissa's smile had cracks in it. I could feel the weight tilting. The next morning, Emily tried to act like nothing happened, scrolling on her phone, asking if I had cereal. But when I walked past her room, I noticed something. She'd shoved the framed photo of me and her at Disney World back onto her nightstand. The one she'd taken down before she left. That was the first real sign. And I'll admit it. Part of me started thinking ahead. If Sarah and Melissa wanted to play the replacement family game, maybe it was time they found out how it feels when someone pulls the mask off in front of everyone. Don't forget to subscribe. For the first week, Emily stayed quiet about the blow-up. She barely left her room except for meals. I didn't push, just made sure there was food, kept things normal. But on the third night, she cracked. We were driving home from the grocery store when she muttered, almost to herself, "Melissa only wanted me when I made her look good." I asked what she meant. She pulled her hoodie tighter, then admitted Melissa had been parading her around like a prop, matching selfies, TikToks, bonus mom and daughter captions. But when Emily stopped playing along, Melissa's patience vanished. "She said I embarrassed her," Emily whispered, "because I rolled my eyes in front of her friends." That wasn't about respect. That was about control. By the weekend, Sarah finally showed up at my door. No warning, just pounding on it like the cops. When I opened, she brushed right past me into the apartment like she still had keys. Emily was on the couch. Sarah went straight for her, grabbing her wrist. "You're coming home. Enough of this tantrum." Emily yanked away, eyes wide. I stepped between them. "She's staying here, at least until things cool down." That was gasoline on fire. Sarah's voice shot up to a shriek. "You've been poisoning her against us since day one. You love this, don't you? Me and Melissa struggling, and you sitting here playing hero." Emily shouted back, "You let her throw me out like garbage?" It was chaos. Sarah crying, Emily yelling, me trying to keep them apart. At one point, Sarah slammed my coffee table with her palm hard enough to knock a mug to the floor, shattering it. My neighbors probably thought I was murdering someone. Finally, Sarah stormed out, screaming over her shoulder, "If she stays here, don't expect me to lift a finger for her anymore. You'll regret this." The door rattled when it slammed. Emily was shaking, but she didn't cry. She just looked at me and said, "She chose Melissa over me." And that's when I realized this wasn't just about my daughter anymore. Sarah had built a fantasy where Melissa replaced me as the parent and Emily as the perfect child. And now that fantasy was cracking wide open. I wasn't going to just sit back and watch. I'd been erased once. Not again. So I started planning. Not petty texts, not screaming matches. Something that would rip the mask right off their happy family act. Something Emily could see with her own eyes, so she'd finally know the truth about replacement families. And the first opportunity came faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, Sarah made her move. Emily had a school play. Small thing, just a winter production. I showed up early, found a seat near the front. 5 minutes later, Sarah and Melissa swept in like royalty. Matching scarves, holding hands, Melissa carrying a bouquet that looked bigger than Emily herself. They spotted me instantly. Sarah smirked like she'd won. The play went fine. Emily did her part, kept her eyes anywhere but where Sarah and Melissa sat. But afterwards, that's when the performance really started. In the lobby, Melissa wrapped Emily in this exaggerated hug, flowers shoved into her arms, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm so proud of you, sweet girl. You're my world." Parents around us smiled like they were watching some Hallmark movie. Emily froze. She didn't hug back, just looked over Melissa's shoulder at me, eyes darting, pleading. I knew that look. She wanted me to do something. Before I could move, Sarah turned to me, voice dripping sugar. Thanks for coming, Mark. It means so much that you support our daughter. Our daughter. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Emily's knuckles went white around the flowers. That night, Emily didn't even put the bouquet in water, just dumped it on her desk and slammed the door. When I checked later, the petals were already browning. 2 days after, Sarah sent me an email. Subject line: custody adjustment. She wrote that since Emily chose to live with me temporarily, she expected me to cover all expenses, school fees, clothes, activities. Meanwhile, she and Melissa would be focusing on their household stability. Translation: they'd wash their hands of Emily until she crawled back begging. Emily read the email over my shoulder. Didn't say a word. Just walked to her room, closed the door, and I heard her lock it for the first time since she'd been home. I sat there staring at the screen, blood boiling. They'd kicked her out, humiliated me in public, and now they wanted me to bankroll their little fantasy while they played perfect family without her. That was the moment I snapped. If Sarah and Melissa wanted to perform in public, fine. I'd give them an audience. But this time, the mask was going to come off in front of everyone they cared about. And I knew exactly where to start. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. I honestly thought a handful of people might read my rant and move on, but holy hell, I've been glued to the comments for 2 days. Some of you were gentle, some of you roasted me like I was a Thanksgiving turkey, and honestly, I needed all of it. A few things that hit me. The comment that said, "She didn't choose Melissa. She chose the version of you Sarah painted." That one made me sit in my car for 10 minutes before I could drive home. You're right. Emily wasn't betraying me. She was reaching for something she thought she needed. Another person said, "Stop waiting to be picked. Be her safe place." I've been repeating that like a mantra. Because yeah, I've been so focused on the betrayal that I forgot Emily's still a kid who got caught in her mom's game. And to the guy who said, "Bro, Melissa is a step Kardashian without the paycheck," I laughed way too hard at that one. Now, some of y'all went full nuclear with the advice. I got at least 50 DMs telling me to drag Sarah and Melissa through court, cut off all contact, and burn them socially. Tempting, sure, but I've got to play this carefully. Court is slow. Emily needs something now. Which brings me to the plan. See, Sarah and Melissa have built their entire image on this replacement family fantasy. Facebook albums, Instagram reels, Melissa's mommy blog garbage. They've got this perfect household persona going, and they need everyone to believe it. So here's where I hit them. I'm not going to scream, I'm not going to throw punches. I'm going to let them expose themselves, publicly, in front of the exact people they've been performing for. I've already got the opportunity lined up. Family event next week where Sarah's side will all be there. They're expecting the happy couple to show off their perfect blended family. Except Emily isn't playing along anymore. And I'm not just bringing her. I'm bringing the truth. Stay tuned. The family event was Sarah's mother's birthday dinner. Big deal in their clan. Restaurant rental, extended relatives, the whole show. Sarah had been bragging online for weeks about how she and Melissa were hosting it. Perfect chance to parade their happy household. Emily didn't want to go, said she wasn't ready to face them. But when I told her, "You don't have to say a word, just stand by me and let them reveal themselves," she agreed. She dressed simple black sweater and jeans, hair tied back. No performance, just Emily. We walked in together. Heads turned instantly. Sarah froze mid-laugh when she saw us. Melissa's smile cracked like glass. "Mark," Sarah said, tight-lipped, "what are you doing here?" "Emily wanted to celebrate her grandmother," I said, loud enough for the table to hear. "She deserves to be here, don't you think?" The relatives glanced between us, confused. They'd been fed the narrative that Emily was basically living in bliss with her bonus mom. Now she was glued to my side, looking like she hadn't slept in weeks. Melissa tried to recover first. She leaned toward Emily with that fake sweet tone. Sweetheart, you should have called us. We could have brought you. Emily flinched, didn't answer. The silence dragged. Someone's fork clinked against a glass. Sarah's aunt finally asked, Wait, I thought Emily lived with you two now. And there it was, the crack I'd been waiting for. Emily whispered, barely audible. They kicked me out. The table went dead quiet. Melissa's face went red, then pale. Sarah sputtered, That's not what happened. She was being disrespectful and… Emily cut her off. You told me to get out, and you let her say it. Her voice was shaking but clear enough for everyone to hear. Sarah's mom, birthday girl, 80 years old, sharp as ever, slammed her hand on the table. You threw out my granddaughter? Chaos erupted, relatives shouting, demanding explanations. Sarah started crying. Melissa snapped that Emily was manipulative, and in the middle of it all, Emily stood up, tears streaming, and said, You wanted a perfect family without me. Well, here's your perfection. She shoved the wilted bouquet Melissa had given her at the play onto the table. It had been in her bag the whole night. Brown petals scattered across the white tablecloth like ashes. Symbolic as hell. Melissa exploded, knocked over a glass of wine, red soaking across the table. Sarah tried to grab Emily's arm again, but this time, I caught her wrist midair and said, Touch her again and I'll have the cops here before your mascara dries. Gasps. Dead silence. That was it. Sarah and Melissa stormed out, dragging their coats behind them, muttering about being attacked. Half the family followed, half stayed with Emily. But the damage was done. Their mask had slipped, and it wasn't me who tore it off. It was Emily herself. Driving home, she sat in the passenger seat, clutching her knees. After a long silence, she whispered, I didn't think anyone would believe me. They do now, I told her. And for the first time in months, she smiled. The fallout from that dinner hit fast. 2 days later, my landlord called. Said someone had reported me for unsafe living conditions, claiming my apartment smelled of mold and that Emily was being neglected. Total lie. But guess who the anonymous report traced back to? Sarah's work email. Amateur move. Then, Emily's school counselor called me in. Apparently, Sarah had shown up at the office crying, saying I was turning Emily against her, and that Emily was suffering under my negative influence. Melissa was there too, nodding along like some twisted stage manager. Emily sat in the corner, mortified. When the counselor asked her directly if she felt unsafe with me, she flat out said, I feel safe with my dad. I don't feel safe with Melissa. That shut it down quick, but it also showed me how far they were willing to go, and it escalated. One night around 11 p.m., my phone blew up with calls from Sarah. I ignored them. Next morning, I found my car keyed, deep, jagged scratches down both sides. On the windshield, a note scrawled in Sharpie. Bitter, pathetic man. Emily saw it before I could hide it. She went pale. That's her handwriting, she whispered. I didn't file a report right then. I wanted more. Because these two thrived on appearances, but their cracks were widening. And the more desperate they got, the sloppier they became. The breaking point came the following weekend. Emily was supposed to spend Saturday at a friend's house. Instead, Sarah and Melissa showed up outside my building, yelling in the parking lot loud enough for neighbors to film on their phones. Melissa was screaming, You poisoned her against me. You ruined everything. Sarah was sobbing, begging Emily to just come home and apologize. Emily stood frozen on the balcony, watching the whole thing unravel in front of strangers. I walked outside calmly, phone in my hand, and said, Keep going. The police will love this video. Melissa lunged toward me. Sarah tried to pull her back, and both of them ended up crashing into the side of my car, already keyed up, now dented. Someone across the street yelled, Get them out of here! And a neighbor started clapping sarcastically. By the time they sped off, half the complex had footage. Their perfect family brand was officially in shreds. Emily came down, shaking, tears on her face, but not from fear, from relief. Now everyone sees it, she said. And she was right. The mask wasn't just cracked anymore, it was shattered. Update 2. Well, it happened. The meltdown everyone told me to brace for finally came, and let me tell you, y'all called it almost to the letter. First off, to the dozens of you who said Melissa wouldn't handle humiliation well, dead on. She went feral. My neighbors still bring it up like it was reality TV. One guy literally called it better than Netflix. Quick rundown for anyone just tuning in. Sarah and Melissa showed up outside my apartment, screaming like banshees, trying to drag Emily back. Melissa went full Tasmanian devil. Sarah cried like she was auditioning for a soap opera. And they ended up denting my already keyed-up car while half the complex filmed. It was chaos. Some highlights from the footage people sent me. Melissa shrieking, "You ruined our family!" while Sarah's clinging to her like a stagehand, pulling the lead actress off stage. A neighbor yelling, "Take it inside, Maury isn't filming today." I owe that guy a case of beer. Emily standing on the balcony, arms crossed, looking down like she was finally seeing the full circus for what it was. Police got involved. Nothing major, just a report for harassment and property damage. But the kicker? The footage went around the family group circles. Sarah's own relatives saw it. Remember, this is the same family that watched Emily call them out at the birthday dinner. Now they're watching Melissa try to throw herself at me in a parking lot while Sarah wails about betrayal. Needless to say, their little perfect household image is toast. Sarah's aunt actually called me yesterday and said, "I don't know how you put up with them for so long." That's from someone who used to gush about Melissa every chance she got. And Emily? She hasn't stopped smiling since. Don't get me wrong, she's still hurt, still processing, but she knows now. She knows who was really in her corner. She told me last night, "I don't want to go back there, ever." As for me, I thought I'd feel vindicated, maybe a little smug. But honestly, it just feels peaceful. Like the storm finally passed. I don't have to convince anyone anymore. Sarah and Melissa did it for me. And to the commenter who wrote, "Revenge is best when you don't swing the knife, they fall on it themselves." You're right. That's exactly what happened. Emily's staying with me full-time now. We're talking to a lawyer about custody changes, and she's started therapy to unpack everything. I'm just trying to give her stability. But every time I walk past that dented car, I can't help but grin. Because it's the perfect reminder. Their fantasy collapsed in front of everyone, and all I had to do was stand still and let them self-destruct. After the parking lot meltdown, things actually got quiet for a while. No late-night calls, no surprise visits. It was like Sarah and Melissa had finally realized they'd burned every bridge in sight. But the silence didn't mean peace. Emily was still carrying all that weight. Some nights she'd wake up crying, saying she felt like she'd been disposable. Other nights, she'd sit on the floor of her room flipping through old photos, me, her, and Sarah back when things weren't a war zone, and asking, why wasn't I enough for her? I didn't have an answer. All I could do was sit beside her, tell her she was enough, and that sometimes people build their lives on lies so fragile that even loving them isn't enough to stop it from breaking. Then came the moment I didn't expect. One Saturday morning, Sarah texted. First time in weeks. Can we meet? Just to talk. For Emily's sake. Emily saw the message and surprised me. I want to go. So we met at a cafe near the school. Neutral ground? Sarah walked in looking exhausted. Makeup heavy, hands shaking around her coffee cup. Melissa wasn't with her, which already told me their fairy tale was cracking. Sarah started with a whisper. I made mistakes. Then she launched into a sob story about stress, pressure, Melissa being overbearing, how she just wanted a chance to rebuild. Emily let her finish, then calmly set her phone on the table and hit play. She'd saved one of the parking lot videos. Melissa screaming, Sarah crying, the whole meltdown. The cafe went quiet as the audio blared. Heads turned. When it ended, Emily slid the phone back into her pocket and said, clear as a bell, "That's the mom you chose to be, and I'm done." Sarah's face crumpled. She reached across the table, but Emily pushed her chair back. I'm not your replacement. I'm your daughter, and you threw me away. Then she stood up and walked out. Didn't even look back. I followed her into the parking lot, my chest tight with pride and heartbreak all tangled together. For the first time, Emily wasn't just surviving it. She was fighting back. And Sarah? She stayed inside, crying into her coffee while the whole cafe stared. That was the last time Emily agreed to see her. After that cafe confrontation, the dominoes started falling fast. Within a week, Sarah's sister called me. Apparently, Melissa had moved out, took her things in the middle of the night, blocked Sarah on everything. Rumor was she'd already latched onto someone else. Sarah went from posting couple selfies every day to nothing at all. Radio silence. Meanwhile, Emily settled in with me like she'd never left. Therapy helped, but what really grounded her were the small routines. Me teaching her to cook pasta properly instead of dumping sauce from a jar. Late-night drives with the music up. Saturday mornings where she'd actually laugh again. Little pieces of normal coming back. But Sarah wasn't done trying. She filed a motion for custody, claiming I was alienating Emily. My lawyer tore it apart. Videos, witnesses, even Sarah's own relatives lined up to testify about the birthday dinner and the parking lot scene. When Emily spoke directly to the judge, voice steady as stone. I want to live with my dad. They kicked me out. That was the end of it. Full custody to me. The look on Sarah's face when the judge ruled against her. She didn't even argue, just slumped forward like all the air had left her. Emily squeezed my hand the whole way out of the courthouse. The last nail in the coffin came a month later at Emily's school awards night. She'd won a small scholarship for her art. Nothing flashy, but it was hers. I was there in the front row, cheering like an idiot. Sarah showed up alone, sat in the back. When Emily went on stage, she only glanced in one direction, at me. Sarah cried quietly into her hands, ignored by everyone else. Poetic justice. That night, Emily handed me her certificate and said, I don't care about the award. I just care that you were here. I realized then, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about proving, to her and to myself, that I was the parent who never left, the one who stayed, even when it hurt. Sarah lost her girlfriend, her family's respect, and custody of her daughter. Melissa lost her stage to perform on. And Emily? She found out the truth. Replacement families might look shiny for a while, but they crumble the second they're tested. Our little apartment isn't perfect. My car's still dented. But when Emily laughs now, really laughs, it feels like the only victory I ever needed. And yeah, sometimes I look at those brown petals she left scattered at that dinner, still tucked in a drawer. Because that was the night she stopped being their prop and became my daughter again. The revenge wasn't fire or fury, it was survival. And we won.